Okay, so on behalf of the moderators, once again, I'd like to welcome you to the 6th Annual Forum of the European Union Strategy for the Baltic Sea region. We will be with you throughout these 2 days in the plenary sessions. I am Daunis Auers from the University of Latvia, and the organizers have told me that I should not use this opportunity to plug my new book on the politics of the Baltic states, which came out last month with Palgrave Macmillan.
He's great, isn't it? My name is Anna-Maija Mertens. I'm Executive Director of Transparency International Germany, but also additionally doing some moderations as this is. And I think in our preparation for this moderation, we just met. It was the first time that we saw each other. And kind of it was already unification of the Baltic Sea region, if you like, because we too have altogether 4 citizenships, and 3 of them are from the Baltic Sea region. Daunis is British, Latvian, and myself, I'm German, Finnish. And I really enjoyed this mixture of perspectives, and this is very fruitful cooperation, and this is why I believe it really makes sense to come together and to have this exchange.
Okay, and at this point, I'd like to invite our other 2 high-level panelists speaking on the competitiveness of the Baltic Sea region to join Prime Minister Straujuma here on stage. So that would be, first of all, His Excellency Algirdas Butkevičius, the Prime Minister of Lithuania. Please. And secondly, Mr. Siim Kallas, Special Advisor to Vice President of the European Commission, Valdis Dombrovskis, and also former Prime Minister of Estonia, Mr. Kallas. Okay, and Prime Minister Straujuma, the floor is yours.
So, as I mentioned, the Latvian EU presidency has focused on 3 priorities: to make Europe more competitive, digital, and engaged. These priorities are relevant on European level, national level, and regional level. And now I want to mention several further steps need to be taken to succeed in making the Baltic Sea region more competitive. Firstly, we must continue structural reforms. They should be fast and decisive. National ownership is essential. Secondly, we should focus smart growth. To promote research and development are essential. Only by innovation we can build knowledge-based economy and society. And I am happy that in Riga today is EU meeting on innovations where I participated some hours ago. Innovation has become a policy priority and a critical challenge for many governments, including Latvia. Third, on the EU level, we are moving forward with digital agenda. A digital single market is hugely important to the economies of the Baltic Sea region states. Our region is a frontrunner in many areas of the digital economy. We have developed digital infrastructure, such as fast and ultra-fast internet connections. E-signatures are widely used both in public and private sector. The implementation of once-only principles significantly reduces administrative burden. Electronic participation platforms such as Manabals in Latvia is active, and internet voting in Estonia are just a couple of examples. Firstly, we need to improve our transport infrastructure. It is essential to implement Rail Baltica. That is both politically important and economically viable project. Rail Baltica will bring benefit for economy and for people. Fifth point, we should remain supporters of liberal trade policy. Our region will profit from EU's free trade agreements with Japan, Canada, and the United States. We need to put all efforts in cementing the achieved progress in TTP negotiations. But in the end, our goal is to deliver concrete benefits to our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Prime Minister. I have a follow-up question. So Latvia has made great strides in launching the new energy union over the course of its presidency. What role do you see the energy union playing in the development of the Baltic Sea region?
We are proud to have launched the energy strategy in our presidency. If we speak about Latvia, then main issues for us is energy security and cooperation between Baltic Sea regions. As we speak about Latvia, is that from 1st of January this year, we liberalized our electricity market, and we had government decisions that from 1st of April will be liberalized gas market. And if we speak about projects, it is very important for us that Gipel project will be developed, and I'm looking on my neighbor. It is a Polish-Lithuanian project which continues to Latvia and Estonia, and further even to Finland in maybe not so near, but in future. And we appreciate Lithuania that in Klaipėda is opened last year gas terminal, and if we will need, then we will get gas to Latvia, and we will not be anymore 100% dependent of Russian gas. Energy union, it was one of our priorities in our presidency, and as I will repeat, main issues for Latvia main issue is not to stay energy island, and that means that we need cooperation with our neighbors, and that means security. Thank you.
Thank you, Prime Minister.
Thank you so much, Mr. Butkevičius. I think most of you know here, of course, you are Prime Minister of Lithuania, but I would like to mention that you used to work also as Minister of Finance and Minister for Transport and Communication, and I also read that your, I don't know if it's your passion, but topics of interest is the taxation policy and also the financial management when it comes to the state and municipality. I think it's good for us to know in order to hear your statement, so please, the floor is yours. Yeah, you can use that as well, sure.
Your Royal Highness, dear Madam Prime Minister of Latvia, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it has been widely acknowledged that the Baltic Sea region is still one of the most integrated and competitive regions in Europe. The region has already taken advantage of this, but we can gain from further integration of the western and eastern coastlines of the Baltic Sea area to fully use our competitive advantage and realize our development potential. Let me briefly name and reflect on a few factors which I consider to be especially important for enhanced regional integration, growth, and competitiveness. First, the energy. Regional energy security is a vital part of our national security. Sustainable supply of energy, a competitive and fully functioning energy market that operates in synchronization with the EU remains our common goal. Much has been already achieved, much remains to be done. The Baltic Energy Market Interconnection Plan is a good example. I hope that the Baltic Energy Markets Interconnection Plan's reform will reinforce its implementation and lead to full integration of the Baltic Sea region into EU internal energy market. One of the immediate steps is the synchronization of the Baltic electricity grid with continental Europe. We also have to step up our efforts towards a regional gas market to allow for the best use of the existing infrastructure, better competitiveness and security. Common market rules are also indispensable. Therefore, the EU set energy package, together with clear, transparent and competitive rules for third-party access to the gas system, should be fully implemented throughout the region. At the same time, it is important to increase energy efficiency and promote energy-saving technologies in the region. The leadership of our Nordic partners, in particular Denmark and Sweden, is of great value in this regard. Second, fostering of regional prosperity. To increase prosperity, cohesion, and sustainable development of the region, we have to further promote entrepreneurship, innovation, trade, and digitally driven economy and growth. We should enhance cooperation in developing and in integrating companies, research institutes, universities, centers of excellence, and improving knowledge mobility using various regional and international instruments. A well-functioning digital single market is essential for innovation, growth, and competitiveness. The Baltic Sea region is a front runner in many areas of the digital economy with strong clusters and e-government solutions, as well as a well-educated workforce. Cross-border barriers in the digital area cost too much for the Baltic Sea region. The EU could gain at least 4% increase of its GDP from the development of a digital single market. I am convinced that our region's innovative thinking and as interest to go ahead can set an example. In this respect, I welcome very much the idea to develop a strategic action plan for 2016 to 2020, aimed at mobilizing all actors to promote developments in research and innovation, entrepreneurship, digital market, with attractiveness of talent and investment. Third, the connectivity. A well-functioning transport system, combined with great attention to the environmental considerations and innovations, is of vital importance for the region's prosperity, economic growth, and international competitiveness. The full integration of the transport infrastructure of the Baltics into the trans-European networks is of utmost importance. Co-network corridors of the new trans-European network policy give us guidance on the infrastructure development of European importance. During the last 2 years, we 3 Baltic prime ministers have given a high priority to the Rail Baltica project. I am very happy to note that by the end of this year, 123 kilometers of European rail gauge will be built in Lithuania, from Polish border up to Kallas. Considering our regional strengths in knowledge-based economy and innovations, it's also important to apply these advantages to the development of green corridors network, as well alternative fuels infrastructure and motorways of the sea network. Ladies and gentlemen, after more than 2 decades of our established regional cooperation and 6 years of implementation of the Baltic Sea strategy, we are now entering a more mature phase. My belief is that the strategic macro-regional approach and the revised action plan of the EU strategy for the Baltic Sea region serve as a good tool to provide more targeted and geographically differentiated response to the challenges. The full potential of the Baltic Sea region is yet to be explored. Last but not least, let me warmly acknowledge the work done by Latvia as the presidency of the EU Council. We fully share your commitments and dedication to further promote EU values. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister. You stressed very much this aspect of security, efficiency, competitiveness, Baltic energy market, and things like this. And we just heard from Her Royal Highness who urged us to take big steps in order to save the sea. So maybe one question to you, how to deal with these conflicts between economic and environmental aims when the development of the economic actions might damage the Baltic Sea region. How do you see that?
Thank you very much for your question. But this question not very easy, but very difficult. Yes, but firstly, the relation between economic activity and environmental sustainability requires appropriate attention, I think. And I would like to say that we have, I think, two very good examples and maybe two very good projects. And the first project is maybe clean water, yes, which focused on developing innovative business products, tackling the environmental challenges with the water sector. And another project is maybe example, which is very good, the Baltic Compass, that fosters solutions for agriculture, municipal and environmental sectors. And maybe continue, and I think that innovation and environmentally friendly technologies are key factors in achieving this task. And smart economic development, integrated planning and management can provide solid results for environmental protection efforts. And then maybe financial means along with new technologies could minimize the impact for climate change. Such is my opinion.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And our third and final speaker on this panel is one of the towering figures of Baltic politics over the last quarter of a century. Having served as governor of the Bank of Estonia, laying the foundations for Estonia's stunning macroeconomic success in the 90s and 21st century, then leaving the comfort of the bank to go into the cut and thrust of politics, serving as Prime Minister of Estonia, later as a European Commissioner, it's hard to think of somebody better to comment on the competitiveness of the Baltic Sea region than Mr. Siim Kallas.
Your Royal Highness, Prime Ministers, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Baltic Sea region covers a large number of countries, including 3 Baltic countries. The participants of the EU strategy for the Baltic Sea region are Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, and also Germany and Denmark. There are, of course, many similarities between these countries, but there are also a lot of differences. 3 Baltic countries have several strengths, but also several weaknesses in terms of attractiveness to investors, in terms of competitiveness. We have the same demographical trends. The share of population out of labor force is increasing. We are located in relatively remote areas, borderlands of the EU. Our connectivity to the economically, culturally, technologically most advanced areas of Europe is poor. Our closeness to Russia is deterring foreign investors. Yesterday, the neighborhood was an advantage. Today, the volatility of the security situation is clearly a very big problem for economic development as well. What can be done as a region to overcome these weaknesses? What can the regional activities and regional projects bring? Where can the regional projects bring some added value to our countries? Can we, as a region, do something better than countries in the European Union in general? There are a lot of talks about digital single market everywhere. Prime Minister mentioned it. It is a serious panel is devoted today to this objective. But in reality, things in EU are not moving as fast as possible. Many main European countries are well behind of Baltic countries in the development of digital services, especially in cross-border digital services. I am sure that Baltic countries can be more courageous and dynamic in development of the digital cross-border services. Our countries can create the regional digital market, which can show good example for the European Union as a whole. Second, we must act together to improve the connections between Baltic countries and Central Europe. We need better air connections, better road connections, better railway connections. Prime Minister mentioned Rail Baltic as one key project in this direction. The possible improvement can be facilitated by synchronized and coordinated activities by our businesses and governments. I must admit that many people in core Europe do not know too much about Baltic countries. Baltic, Balkan, what is the difference? Would be not a bad idea to create some cross-Baltic activities, cultural, sport, to raise the profile of the Baltic region in the public knowledge of Europe? But what might be the practicalities, practical approach to achieve some common goals described? I suggest for consideration the following approach. Governments agree about a common purpose, common project, say to create the regional digital market. Then the governments design a role and framework for a coordinator for this project. The possible coordinator should be a respected and well-known person who has good connections in all Baltic countries. The coordinator can work efficiently in smoothening and facilitating the cooperation between government agencies, business and public sector. Of course, I take this from the experience in the European Commission, Trans-European Network, 9 corridors they have, these pan-European coordinators, and this is one, it works. It is, of course, not a miracle, but it works and can overcome the rivalries and opposition from member states and difficulties with member states. Prime Minister Straujuma mentioned also that the Latvian presidency has one of the main objectives to reduce administrative burden in Europe. I can say that the Commission is launching again an initiative to simplify the rules how to manage European structural funds money. I know that there have been many attempts to simplify the rules, but this is a terribly complicated exercise. But what can we, of course, consider as one idea just here as well is to maybe we can have some pioneer region and to create some regional approach, have different rules. It's terribly difficult to have same rules everywhere in Europe, but maybe it's better to, maybe in some kind of regions where Baltic region can be one of the pioneer regions in this respect. Thank you very much.
So, Mr. Kallas, the Baltic Sea region is very, very diverse. We have Central Europe represented with Germany and Poland. We have the Baltic states. We have Scandinavia when we include Finland. When we take Finland out, we have the Nordic states. And we have some very different identities and sort of international images in this sphere. At the same time, Estonia is probably the most successful of the Baltic countries in branding itself, the Estonia and the innovative digital country and so on. Do you think it's possible to develop a common brand for the Baltic Sea states? If so, how would it possibly look? And would there be an added value to creating this?
If there is a political will to create this kind of brand in culture, it's possible to create such a brand. For instance, in many European big cities, especially in summertime, you see large advertisements of Moscow Ballet, which doesn't exist, in fact, as institution, but it is a trademark. And some performances are good, some performances are extremely bad. But maybe it is a trademark, and they use this trademark. Maybe we can think about something similar to create, for instance, Baltic Opera Company, which can then make performances everywhere, and especially based on Latvian National Opera, which is a very good opera, and something like that, and symphony orchestras, which have the label Baltic. And just to, as I said before, it is, of course, when I started to work in Europe, it was I saw that it was quite new to see Baltic countries as members of European Union, and the core Europeans sometimes really asked, who are these people? They are from where? But things have not improved too much during all this period. So to create some kind of cultural label which brings the name Baltic, I think it can be positively assessed in all Baltic countries. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kallas.
Would you say that they go down?
Thank you very much to our high-level panel on competitiveness. And I'd ask you now to rejoin the audience. Thank you very much.
And we now have some video messages from the founding fathers of the European Union strategy for the Baltic Sea region. There are first Alexander Stubb. He's nowadays Minister of Finance in Finland. And secondly, of course, President Ilves, today, of course, President of Estonia. Please.
Hi, my name is Alex, and I was born and raised pretty much 20 meters from the Baltic Sea. My dad still lives in the same apartment block right there by the Baltic Sea shoreline. I live a little bit further inland, about 1 kilometer. And you know what, when I was a kid, that was a long time ago, by the way, don't let my looks fool you, I am old. We used to travel in the Baltic Sea by boat, in a little 10-meter small sailing boat, and we used to see it quite far down to the bottom, almost 5-6 meters, it was clear. Then the years went on, and the Baltic Sea just deteriorated and deteriorated and deteriorated. And one day we noticed that, you know, it was a little bit like porridge, you couldn't really see through it. When I became a member of the European Parliament, I had a dream, and that was to raise awareness about the state of the Baltic Sea, and I was proudly able to do that, actually together with the President of Estonia, Thomas Hendrik Ilves, and there were many other Baltic and Baltic Sea colleagues in the European Parliament at the time, and we pushed through the Baltic Sea strategy. It was one of those things that came into being actually as one of the first initiatives that the European Commission adopted from the European Parliament. So I'm really glad to hear and see that you're now grappling with the same issues and commemorating and working on the Baltic Sea strategy. Keep up the good work, and perhaps in a few days when I go back out on a sailing boat, I can again look down to the bottom of the sea, 5 to 6 meters, and see it clearly. And it'll be thanks to you. All the best and good luck with your seminar.
Hello, my name is Thomas Ilves. I'm currently President of Estonia. But back in 2004, when a number of new countries at that time joined the European Union, it suddenly became clear to me when I was in the European Parliament that, in fact, as a result of the enlargement of 2004, the Baltic Sea had in fact become a mare nostrum, our sea. We recall that in Roman times, the Mediterranean was called the Mare Nostrum by the Romans, our sea, because the entire coast of the Mediterranean was part of the Roman Empire. Well, today we don't have empires, but we do have the European Union, an organization of democratic states around the Baltic Sea, and with some very small exceptions, today the entire coast of the Baltic Sea is within the European Union. As a result of that, I proposed, and then after leaving Parliament, Alex Stubb continued, and we finally saw the first ever macro-regional strategy passed by the European Union, also the first policy ever actually that began in the Parliament. Now it's been almost 10 years since passage of or acceptance of the Mare Nostrum, or the Baltic Sea Strategy project. And I think that in these times we really need to push even more on this. Because if we look at the region, it's not merely the geographical fact of a common coastline, but in fact within Europe we see that the countries that are along the Baltic littoral are also those countries that have often done the most in developing e-society and using digital technology to make the lives of our citizens better. And so it's my very sincere hope that as we develop, that the countries along the Baltic Sea that are part of the Baltic Sea strategy would combine forces and make efforts to actually increase the degree of interconnectivity among the countries that we're talking about. There are so many things we could do where the technological solutions already exist within countries, but I think we can extend them across and around the Baltic Sea. Take, for example, something we have here in Estonia, the digital prescription, which 99.9% of Estonians use digital prescriptions these days, which means that when a doctor writes a prescription, he puts it into a computer, and then you go anywhere in the country, and with your ID card, you can get your medicine. But think of how it would be if this worked all across the Baltic Sea. That if I go to Stockholm and I lose my my medicine, or if someone comes to Riga from Lapland and they need a prescription, you just go to your pharmacy. These are all easily realizable goals that we can do around the Baltic Sea. I mean, there are so many other things we can do as well, but the kinds of things that are possible today within country, that should be possible across our region, and in fact would all help to make the lives of our citizens better. That's just one minor example. I think that all of you there can come up with lots of other ideas, but I would urge you to really think hard about how we can use modern technology, and especially the digital revolution, where all of the countries around the Baltic Sea are among the leaders in the world, how we can connect to each other and make the lives of our citizens better. Have a good conference. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thanks very much then to the two fathers.